Hello guys.
Welcome to my low budget shit show.
So I actually wasn't sure whether or not I should do this video, but then I told my friend about the idea and she said that it sounded dumb and that I shouldn't do it. So now here we are, we're doing it, because, you know, I have to prove her wrong, obviously. I actually have a confession to make today. My friends are theater kids. I know, this is a completely shocking revelation.
Honey, what you waiting for? Welcome to my candy store.
Completely out of left field. I speak specifically of these four. They all recently starred in our school's production of Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, which I went to go see, and I gotta be honest, I did not have high hopes. However, it did end up being really good. But yeah, I do feel sort of the need to explain why I didn't really have high hopes. So, because I did have my reasons. So, the first thing was I figured, you know, it's Cinderella, right? Like we all know the story of Cinderella. This can't really bring anything new to the table, surely. I was actually wrong about that. We'll talk about that in a second, but the other main reason why I kind of didn't have high hopes was because the cast list was unusually cursed. Now, nothing can be more cursed than the cast list of a different production that was 2 years ago, and the production never actually came to be because of the pandemic, and praise God for that, because that production was going to be a complete train wreck. Just the fact that I was in the cast list honestly should tell you that on its own. However, yeah, there were some cursed elements of this production's cast list which had me a bit concerned, but it all turned out well. However, do not think I'm just going to let this slip by. I am going to be explaining right now the specific cursed elements of the cast list. However, first there's like 3 people I kind of want to mention that weren't really cursed, but it's just funny to me. So these 2, who should be appearing on screen right now, they were the stepsisters, and it was a parallel situation sort of to that of Jade West and Liz Gillies, in that they weren't even just, they weren't even playing roles, they were literally just being themselves. It was very entertaining. Everyone did very good. I just want to make that clear. Like, I'm probably going to say some stuff that makes it sound like people didn't do good, but everyone did good, okay? So then we have this person, who should be appearing on screen right now. She was the stepmother. And this was, you know, this wasn't really that cursed. The thing was, where I thought it could be kind of awkward, is that she's actually shorter than one of the stepsisters. But it worked out. You didn't really notice it on stage. Now is when we start to get more into the realm of the cursed. So there was this character in there who was called like the Royal Steward, I think, which is the most overly polite description of his job I have ever fucking heard. He was the servant, basically. He was the servant to, like, specifically the prince in the palace. This role was supposed to be played by someone who went to our school. And then I guess they quit. And then they had to recast the role with someone who already graduated from our school. Because that is how hard up for actors they are. And if that doesn't tell you something about the school I go to, I don't know what does. So yeah, you cannot deny that there is a certain amount of cursed going on having someone who already graduated our school in our school production. But, you know, again, they did well in their role. And then we come to possibly the most cursed part of the whole thing. And that is the roles of the king and queen. So the person appearing on screen right now played the queen. And, you know, she's in high school. And the actor for the king is in junior high. Yeah, I'm just gonna let that one go. I think I better not get into that one, actually. It actually wasn't as problematic as I thought it would be going in. And again, that's something we'll talk about in a second. So at this point, I'm kind of going to go over some of the highlights from the production. The first important thing to note that happened is like we got the town square. Cinderella and the prince like bump into each other. They don't know who each other is, and the prince like said something like, "Everyone deserves to be treated with respect." And then they just kind of walked away. This seems unimportant, but keep it in the back of your mind, okay? So then the royal steward shows up in the town square announcing this royal ball supposedly being thrown by the prince, but actually the prince is there, and he's like, "The fuck is going on here?" And the steward is like, "We're supposed to know." And the prince is like, "Oh my god, my mother's at it again." And then we've got Cinderella speaking to her mice, and I want to know who was the sucker that had to buy 10 pairs of Mickey ears from Disney.com, because God knows that is what they did. That is exactly what they did. But Bishop, Disney.com is not where the Mickey ear store is. Did I ask? I don't think I did. Cut to the king and queen who fucking hate each other. This was freaking amazing, actually. And this is why I said like it wasn't that problematic, the age difference between the actors, because literally the characters hated each other. I did not see this coming. So the prince walks in and he's like, "Mother, what have you done this time?" And she's like, I wanted to throw you a birthday party." And he's like, "That's in 3 months." And she's like, "Is it?" And he's like, "Oh, Mom." And then she's like, "Listen, I would listen to your opinions, but unfortunately they're different than mine, and so I can't." In other words, she's a Republican. And then the prince is like, "For fuck's sake," storms out. And then the king and queen sing some kind of song about how they're supposed to be in love, but really it's just to distract us all from the fact that their divorce papers are literally on the desk behind them. And in fact, I wonder if that might not be the reason why the queen is so desperate for the prince to get married, so that they can have at least one stable marriage in the family to distract the crowd and hold the place together while the actual top marriage is crumbling behind the scenes. That would actually be a good plan. And here I thought Republicans were incapable of complex thought. So after that, I'm pretty sure the wicked stepmother yells at Cinderella a whole bunch about how she'll never amount to anything and blah blah blah. Then fairy godmother shows up. And this has got to be the most legendary part of the entire thing. Like, this was actually legendary. Fairy godmother, she reminded me of Mother Olm. I'm just gonna let the clip explain for itself.
Yes, honey, you should all get cool anime powers.
She's like that, you know, like it was like a lot of sass, I feel like, a lot of like pointing out that she's not like the standard fairy godmother. She's sort of like, she just like sort of helped Cinderella see like what she wanted to see, and then like made that actually happen with doing a glitter dance around the stage. I don't know what I just did. It didn't look like that. It looked a lot better than that. And then they sang some kind of song, and that was the end of Act 1. I actually was kind of shocked at how short Act 1 is. The entire play was not that long. That production that I mentioned earlier with the incredibly cursed cast list that never came to fruition, that was like freaking 2 hours, I think. This play was only like, well, was it 2 hours? I honestly don't know. The point is it's shorter than your standard production, okay? So then we had Act 2, which opens with the ball, and the I can't even think about it with a straight face, you guys. The ball scene was honestly one of the most legendary things I have ever borne witness to. So there's like 3 things going on at once on the stage, right? So like in this corner you have the prince who's trying to be wooed by all of the maidens who've come in invited to the ball. This includes the stepsisters who have decided to grace him with such talents as laughter that mimics that of a hyena and poetry so loud it could burst through anyone's eardrum. In this corner, we have the wicked stepmother who, I kid you not, is trying to seduce the royal steward and failing hardcore at it. And then you got, just in the back of the stage, the king and queen just sitting on their thrones, looking on with expressions like, what the hell am I watching? It was one of my favorite things I have ever seen. I kid you not. And this is when Cinderella walks in. No one recognizes her because she's blinged up. She is the only one who actually manages to impress the prince. And shit. They go out for a walk outside. They say stuff that we don't care about right now because the point is that the stepsisters are actually hiding off stage and peeking their heads in to spy on this conversation, this little exchange in the garden. And then they like got a little more on stage, and at this point, I think I'm just gonna let them speak for themselves.
Only a glance. Could you hear what they were saying?
Only a word or two.
Oh, she must be a princess or something.
His Highness sure seemed to fall for her.
Well, there's just no accounting for taste. Why would a fellow want a girl like her, a frail and fluffy beauty? Why can't a fellow ever once prefer a solid girl like me?
She's a frothy little bubble with a frilly sort of charm, and with very little trouble, I can break a little arm.
Ow! Oh, why would a fellow want a girl like her, so obviously unusual? Why can't a fellow ever once prefer a usual girl like me? Her cheeks are a pretty shade of pink,
but not any bigger than a rose's.
her skin may be delicate and soft,
But not any softer than a dove's.
her neck is no whiter than a swan.
She's only as dainty as a daisy.
She's only as graceful as a bird. So why is a fellow going crazy? Oh, why would a fellow want a girl like her? A girl who's merely lovely. Why can't a fellow ever once prefer a girl who's merely me?
She's a frothy little bubble
With a rose sort of air and with very little trouble, I can pull out all her hair. Oh, why would a fellow want a girl like her? A girl who's merely lovely. Why can't a fellow ever once prefer a girl who's merely me? What's the matter with a man? What's the matter with a man? What's the matter with a man?
I would have got, or at least tried to get some other footage from this, but that was the only thing where, like, I knew it was coming because they talked to me about the song and how they were doing with it at various points. After this, I forgot about the next thing, actually. So then the clock starts chiming midnight, right? And Cinderella's like, fuck! The fairy godmother told me I have to get out of here by now. And so she starts, like, leaving. So, of course, in the story of Cinderella, the slipper, like, falls off her foot on the way out. I kid you not, guys. She was hopping around in a circle, trying to yank off the shoe and set it down on the floor. I couldn't breathe. However, I would hazard to say it actually wasn't my favorite thing I've ever seen, because that title might actually be held by the very next thing that happened, which was the prince collapsing on the ground and screaming, "No!" in a tone so loud that I'm pretty sure the neighbors woke up. So then we see Cinderella and the whole step family back at the house, singing about how great the ball was, including Cinderella, who has apparently been stricken by a sudden bolt of idiocy and has forgotten that she wasn't supposed to even be at that ball. Like, literally, I kid you not, she just, the way she hit it was like, she said, "Here's what I think happened," and then proceeded to describe exactly what happened. And, like, the step family would know that because they were actually there, and yet they didn't even question this at all. And, like, theater logic. So the prince and the steward run around the village trying on the slipper, blah blah blah. We know how that works. They get to the step family house. Do we even know their last name? I don't think so. The stepsisters both try cramming their feet in, and they're like, "This is the wrong size," or some stupid shit. And then the stepmother continues trying to seduce the royal steward, and he's like, "Fuck off." Cinderella comes out, and the prince is like, "Oh my god, you're that dude who I said, like, we met in the town square." And she's like, "Oh my god, yeah, you said everyone needs to be treated with respect. I told you this would come back, didn't I?" So at that line, I kid you not, at this line, the wicked stepmother starts gagging. Like, honestly, gagging at the idea of everyone being treated with respect. And, like, I think she fainted on the couch, actually, a little later on. Because then, it was, of course, Cinderella, shoe fits in the slipper, gets taken away by the prince. The stepmother fainted on the couch. And then we got to see the wedding, and then there was the curtain call. And interestingly, the set crew also got to participate in the curtain call and the bowing, which I have not seen that before. I don't know if that's like standard. I feel like it isn't, but from what I hear, they definitely deserved it, because I hear the step crew had to go through a hell and a half for this production because the person in charge of them was horrible to them. Sorry if the whole like concept of this video was kind of weird, but the play was so legendary that I knew I had to bring it to the channel somehow, and this was the best way I could think of doing that. So again, nobody did badly. The ridiculousness was not the fault of the actors themselves. Everyone did very well at their jobs, including the set crew. That, I think, is all I need to say for today. There will be more important videos than this, and better videos than this coming soon. But yeah, this one just kind of for fun. I had to bring this to the channel somehow. Next time, reactions. See you then.